Hi guys, and welcome back. And a lot of good questions coming in. So we're here. Laurie is on the call as well, and she's going to come up with first question or first kind of comment I just asked her. So yeah, do you want to fire ahead, Laurie?
No, I was just saying I took your advice and bought a pair of super shoes. And so I wore them for the first time today on my interval workout. And oh my God, the difference is unbelievable.
The
Like,
difference is unbelievable. Yeah,
yeah, like it felt so much easier. Like I didn't feel as beat up afterwards.
yeah, yeah. It's
Tons of energy.
ridiculous, and
Yeah.
especially for like calves and stuff like that or plantar, they
Yeah.
take a lot of pressure off. The only thing you
Yeah.
do want with them is not to get overly reliant on them, but like one session or one workout per week is great with them.
Yeah.
Um, that way you're still using your calves on your easier runs, and even like one workout in the week you're still kind of using your calves. But yeah, they're a game changer. And then for races, as I said, I don't care what level you are at racing, you have to be having a pair of carbon fiber plated shoes. Which ones did you go for?
I got the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, they're really nice
Yeah.
as well. We're still
Yeah.
waiting for our first sponsorship deal, guys. We will sell our souls for carbon fiber plated shoes. So yeah,
Um,
brilliant. No, they're a great one. They're a great one to have. So I think you made a good choice.
And so that sort of ties into some of another question I have. I found a place near me that actually does lactate testing.
Brilliant. Oh my
Um,
God.
I know it's only taken years, but anyway. So
Great
one
stuff.
thing, the price is equivalent to about 107 euro. Does that
Yeah,
sound
great. That's
reasonable?
perfect. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. That's really good.
Okay. And then I guess the question I have is when I do that, two questions. One, should I wear the super shoes for something like that, or am I better off wearing my regular?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Because again, it's like we say, it's like that's an internal measure. So all that will happen is if you wear the super shoes, the pace will be higher that you hit your lactic threshold, but the heart rate will be the same.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's only the heart rate zones. So just two things: make sure it's not a VO2 max test. It is a lactic test. They should be taking
Just
little
lactic.
bits, yeah, little
Yeah.
bit of blood each time, um, and then just send me the results after.
Okay, great.
Yeah, just tell them like, yeah, just to send me the results, and then we can make up your zones. Yeah, brilliant.
Okay. And then the second question to that is if I'm trying to, where would I be best to try to fit that into my week without disrupting other things? Like obviously don't want to do it the same day as an interval workout.
Well, no. So with the lactic threshold, then, oh,
Yeah.
do you mean just to get the test itself, or
Yeah.
the test
Yeah. Like
itself
what?
should be on another? It should be on one of your workout days. And while I say it doesn't help internally, I would not have done a hard workout. Try leave it like at least 4 days beforehand. Nearly take it as a race. Um, just because you don't want kind of like residual lactic in the body. You still clear it, but it can just make it a little bit more it's just a little bit more complex because you're looking at like bigger clearances, and then if they go too fast speeding up, you might come down the whole way. And again, if it's someone who's not experienced with them, you might find that they do that. So basically what I'm saying there is, say if you did a workout on Wednesday, for example, and it
Yeah.
was hard, and I know you like to smash your hills.
Yeah.
um so say you did that, Laurie, what can happen is, say then you do the lactic test on a Friday, just for example, you could still have like, so resting lactic should be like below 1 usually. Okay, but
Right.
you're resting lactic because there's still lactate in your body from the hard session on Wednesday. Let's just say it could be 2. Okay. Um, so you're starting at 2, and then the first time you jog, because it's fully aerobic, you'll actually be clearing some of the lactate from the Wednesday. So the Ingebrigtsens, the 1500 and 5K kind of Olympic champ, they do a lot of like easy running. Like they do, like 100 and 120 miles. And a lot of it is just like really easy running, to the point just to clear any lactate that was built up from previous sessions. So a lot of it's like it's called like aerobic recovery essentially, because they're trying to clear it. So what might happen is, if you had someone experienced, what you do is you go slower for longer reps. So you go 2, 1.2, you and then you'd say, is it 1.2, and then say it stays at 1.2, then it might be 1.1 or 1.2. So at least you're like, okay, we're back to a kind of base level. And then with slow speeds, and then we build up again, and then we can see that nice kind of lift. Whereas if you have someone who does it too fast, what'll happen is you start at 2, which is high because of the lactate. It might go down to 1.5, but then they kind of ramp too fast, or your fitness level isn't ready for the speed, and it goes back up again, and it's harder to see the lower end of the curve if it's correct. You know, it's hard to see. It's like, okay, well, where are you at your base lactic anyway? And now this is your up point, or if we had gone a little bit slower, would it had been level? Whereas if you come in at 1, say the first stage anyway is 1. So at least then we have a base of like, that's your 100% aerobic because it didn't improve. Then even if on the second stage it starts to increase, well, it's like, okay, it's a bit of a quick increase, but we know what the baseline is. So all that to say, just give it about 4 days and treat it like a kind of race, like, and come into it like recovered. It's still a good workout session doing a lactic threshold set like test. So have that as your test, and then like you know, you have the results for forevermore. So it's like, it's a case of like, look, if we just do this right once, we're forgetting. But that's brilliant. Let me know where you have, because well, I don't know if I have many more where you're from, Laurie, on the course, but I'm always looking for places to do lactic tests just to recommend to people. So, and 107 euros basically is really good value.
Okay. All right. So I'm just thinking, because I'm 4 weeks to go to a race, should I just wait and do it after the race? Because otherwise I've got to replace a workout from my training plan, and I don't know if they'll be equivalent, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you must be doing some kind of aerobic workout during a week.
They have me doing 1 set of intervals and 3 easy runs.
Yeah, so just literally just do, instead of the set of intervals, do the lactic threshold test as the session. Now, look, there's no rush on it, as I said. So if we do this in like, say you have your race, you take a down week, and then you do it the week after, that's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
instinctively, I probably would do that, Laurie. I'd probably wait until the 5 weeks, because or 6 weeks, because you can have your race, and then you can have a down week, like some easy running, and then towards the end of the second week when you're back, just have that as your lactic test. And then you might be in a headspace of like, well, I've got this, and I might now do a kind of block of that kind of aerobic type training using these heart rate zones, as opposed to getting it now and not using it at all. So that's what I would do.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, about how much running is that? Like a half an hour, 45 minutes? Like how long do they keep you going?
Usually about half an hour. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's about that. So what they'll start is they'll be just above jogging. And you'll just go up in either 3 to 6 minutes. Like 4 is great, because if it's 3, it can kind of underestimate a little bit, because you have your 3 minutes, you hop off, you get the test. Like the lactic can kind of still be climbing up if you had left it. So whereas if they go 4, but look, anything from 3 to 6 minutes is ideal at each stage. Normally they go about 4 minutes. So you go from like basic easy running, and usually there's about like 8 or 9 stages. So like 9 by 3 is 27 minutes, 8 by 3 is 24. You know, quick maths.
Yeah. Okay, I was wondering, because the appointment's like an hour and a half, and I thought, oh God, hope to run.
No. That's mad that the appointment's that long. Okay, good question. I'm glad. All right, we're hitting the double there, Laurie, which is great. Getting a pair of, and look, as you said, like at any level, guys, come on, like 100 euros. You throw it away on a bad dinner if it was good. So 100 euros for a lactic test. Get a heart rate monitor as well.
I have one. I've been using a heart rate monitor for years.
Chest heart rate monitor, lactic threshold test, one time in your life, laughing. Okay, great. All right, let's get into it. I have loads of questions here. Someone won't make the Q&A, but have a foot problem I've been having lately. I've been finding my toes, and in particular my big toe on the right foot, are going numb often when I run, when on runs. At first I thought it was due to my shoes being too small / tight, but I've changed the lacing and tried a few different pairs, including some that I never previously had issues with, and it seems to be happening regularly. So just wondering, is there some suggestions on what to do, or if I need to see someone about it, or if there are any releases that might be helpful? Some context that might actually help. This usually happens around the 8 to 10K mark, but doesn't always happen. Example, I did a Dublin half the other week with no ill effects. Currently trained for a marathon, so doing 50 to 60K ish a week. Okay. So a few reasons why this can be occurring. Basically, right, the one question I'd like to have found out there is, does the numbness go away quickly after a run? So does the numbness go away, like say after like a minute, or within like half an hour is the numbness gone, or does it linger for like an hour or for a long time? Like so once you stop running, like, yeah, is the numbness in the foot gone? If it's a thing where it goes away within a couple of minutes to kind of half an hour, it's kind of more suggesting like a temporary compression or circulation issue. And that usually, so once the pressure goes off, or that repetitive motion stops, the pressure comes off the nerve, or the pressure comes off the blood vessel, and then the foot comes back to normal. Okay, so again, even though you have changed your shoes, it might be like shoe or sock compression, even at the ankle, at that tarsal area. So just have a check, especially if things are a little bit swollen now, even in shoes that mightn't have been in the past, it might now cause it. So when you're looking at the laces being tight, okay, it mightn't be at the foot itself, but just check around the actual midfoot or in the ankle area, just to make sure it's not compression on anything. It could be muscle tightness. It could be like in the deep calf, especially if it's the foot. So just trying to do some like foam rolling releases, calf stretches, wearing your compression socks, and see, does that take some pressure off the muscles? And then the last one, it could be is like mechanical irritation. So the way you're running, just maybe when you're upping your volume for the marathon, it could be that. So see, so it could be like, as you said, especially when you're saying it's happening after 8 to 10K. So maybe getting like just a cheap pair of like insoles or orthotics, changing like the pressure you're putting on your foot. Yeah, so basically loosen the laces across the forefoot. I know you've changed the laces, but maybe see if that is it. Try like a pre-run calf or foot mobility. So I go in and I go into the foam roll section of our app. You'll see the mobility work, and go into foam rolling and the massage ball on the foot, massage ball on the calf. Wear compression socks maybe during the run, see if that helps it. And then if they're not working, it maybe look at getting a pair of insoles just to kind of change the pressure in the foot and see if that works. Okay. If the numbness lingers after a run, like say for hours or into the next day, then that's pointing to more nerve irritation or entrapment, or even something like further up the chain. Like, so it could even be like a spine kind of issue, or like sciatic nerve. That's kind of like running all the way into the toe. Okay, so like the tibial nerve entrapment, it's called tarsal tunnel syndrome. So people get like carpal tunnel syndrome. If that tarsal gets super tight, it's just at the passing as it comes into around the ankle. Just check again if it's like a nerve. So if you get this when you're sitting a little bit, or if it's lapsing, maybe it isn't time to go. Or it could be like that, just accumulative inflammation. So it could be, is there any swelling around the ankle? Is there any swelling into the foot or into the calf? Okay, so if it's more of that like longer time, because that's kind of looking at more nerve irritation, potentially something in the back, I would just go to a physio or podiatrist there to just check that out. It could do a few little things again, just doing like back extensions for the back. Look up, if you go to physio-led back pain, look up the morning routine, do that before a run, and then see if that helps. Stay doing like your kind of hip releases in the calf ones we talked about. You could try again at the very bottom of the physio-led back plan, or the very bottom of the training section, go to back essentials, back care essentials. The last video is called the nerve glide, okay, for the sciatic nerve. So it's a flossing of the sciatic nerve, it gets it moving. Do that and see if it helps. And then look, if it is something that's going on a long time, like lasting for a day after a run or several hours, you're going to have to cut back on the volume you're doing and just see if it comes good. Okay, hopefully that that changes. Especially if it's always in the same foot, it's probably the same nerve, and that's more local. If it's something that's like more of a general ache that kind of moves around, or pins and needles, it comes down, it could be more in the back. Okay, there are certain lines, like that L5 line is the one that hits the big toe, but yeah, that would be my advice there. Hope that helps. All right. Now, just going through all my questions again. Can you give on training? Okay, I had answered that question, Kieran, about advice for a PB. I hope you saw that. If you're doing, let's bring this up because someone else asked this. Did that make sense on, oh, did that not send? Sorry, I'm going to just check if I had put this in. But the week of a race, right, we used to do like a lot more speed work, but now I actually think you're better off doing a little bit more aerobic. The idea being with more lighter speed, right? The idea being that, okay, I've had another question just straight to me, which is good. I looked at this, I wouldn't have seen it, and I'll answer that. The idea being that a lot of times there are people, I need to get the speed in my legs, but I feel sometimes they can overdo it. They can kind of really linearly fry themselves and be a little bit flat. So I feel like it's better if you come in with a little bit more aerobic on the week. So say the guys are doing the streets of Kilkenny, and one of the sessions we kind of do would potentially be, say, one out that I said for you to do, Kieran, it'd be like, yeah, 2 by 6 minutes at zone 3 pace. So we would have done 6 by a K at zone 3 effort, and then 3 minutes off, or 4 minutes recovery, and 4 by a minute. And we did 5 by 200 meters at target, like 5K pace. So that's kind of a similar. I'll just show you this session, Kieran. So this is the one I was saying to you, but like what you're looking to do here is on the week of the race, a lot of times people used to be doing like, and we used to do it like really fast, kind of sharp stuff. The idea to prime the nervous system. Okay, the idea is to prime the nervous system, but with that, then sometimes you can kind of flatten the nervous system. So what we find now is like, if you can top up the aerobic system, it allows the nervous system to be relaxed. So by the time then later in the week, everything is like fully jazzed. So normally those type of sessions we do now are like much more like easy aerobic. So you're running, your heart's going. Now you'll feel like crap as well. The other thing, on the week of a race, you're trying to instinctively go easier, which can make this easy pace feel kind of harder. You know, you're not going to feel that comfortable. So this one was like, say, 2 by 6 minutes at zone 3, and maybe off like 2 minutes recovery. Then what I did in this session was 3 minutes at the target pace. I'd probably even make this a little bit easier if I was racing here. So I go 2 by 6 minutes at zone 3 off, say, like 2 minutes, easy jogging, or 90 seconds. Then say it's a 5K, you do 3 minutes at the 5K pace, so 1K hard, then 4 minutes recovery, and then 4 by 1 minute at target pace off 1 minute recovery. You could even make that easier. You could take out the 3 minutes at target pace, and you could only just do the very end bit. As I said, we did a session this week, which was 6, it would be like basically 6 by 3 minutes 30 or 4 minutes at zone 3 pace. Does that make sense, Kieran?
Yeah, sorry.
Do you
Yeah,
have
it
any,
does. Yeah.
do you have
Yeah.
any comments on that or any questions about like what to do this week?
I've done that Tuesday session just before now. So,
Okay. So you did.
Yeah.
So what I would do this week then is say your race is still Saturday.
yeah.
Just do what I would do then is go 6 by, or even like go 5 by 3 minutes.
What day is this now? Oh, sorry.
That'll be Tuesday.
No, I've done Tuesday. That's today. I've done it today.
Ah, brilliant. Yeah. So just then
You sent it on to me and just in
Yes.
time, and I did it.
Brilliant. Brilliant. How do you find it?
Well, I found it tough. I kind of probably couldn't understand it fully. To be honest, what I did was, the first 6 minutes, I kind of do that at marathon pace. Was that right?
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't take a break before the 3 minutes for the first one. I went straight into the 3 minutes.
Okay. That is harder. Yeah.
And I did find it hard, but then I took a 4 minute break. I used my own head. I was just tired. I took a 4 minute break. I walked, and I totally recovered. And then I did the same thing again because I thought that was what you're supposed to do. But the second time, I find that it takes me a long time to loosen up and warm up. So the second time it was a bit easier.
Yeah, you felt more easy. Yeah. So okay, so you've done a hard. So I would just go 45 minutes easy then tomorrow.
Yeah.
I would rest on Thursday.
Yeah.
I would just do 30 minutes easy and 4 like very easy strides on Friday.
Yeah.
And that'll prime the body. Just like 10-second hills. I would just do hills here, and then I would do the race on Saturday.
Grand. That makes sense. Yeah, I can see that on the thing. Yeah, that makes sense. I'll do that, Jet. Thanks very much.
Great. And then take a rest day, or let us know what your next plan is or when your next race is, and we can kind of build in for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Great.
Okay. With that in mind, then I'm just going to answer this other question, which was, if you're like 3.5 weeks out from a race. Wait there 1 second. I just need to take off this fleece. I'm absolutely sweating. Okay, I'm back. That'll just be a pause in the podcast. I have no one who edits these. Okay, so what I would do is about 3.5 weeks out. It just one thing, right? It depends on. You kind of have to have like. You can only really peak right one time in a year. So now you can hold a peak for like say 6-7 weeks, maybe 8 weeks if you keep your aerobic up. But once we're in. So with that in mind, right, if we're going to start the peak, we are going to start coming in. The sessions are going to be a little bit sharper and less aerobic. Okay, so the ones here, for example, that was a 4 mile. So if I was doing a 4 mile, 3.5 weeks out, 3.5 weeks out, I would probably, if the session can only be say 3 weeks out, I would go into the sharpening session, which might be like 1200. This is a lovely one. 1200 at 10K pace, a lap jog recovery, 1200 at 5K pace, a lap jog recovery. That's a killer. Then 800 at 5K pace. Oh, sorry. This one should have one extra thing. I would go 1200 at 10K pace, 1200 at 5K pace. Then I would go back to 10K pace, and I would do 1,000 meters at 10K pace. I would just switch these. 800 meters at 5K pace. Then I would go 800 meters at, so it goes 1,200 at 10K, 1,200 at 5K. Then it's going to go 1,000 at 10K, 800 at 5K. Then it goes 800 at 10K. So every second rep goes back to that 10K kind of pace. And every next rep is back to the 5K pace or slightly faster. Okay. And then, so it goes 12, 12, 1,000, 800, 800 at 10K, 400 faster than 5K. Okay. And you're doing like a 400 meter jog or 3 minutes rest between each rep. Okay. That's if I'm going to be starting my, like, that's going to start kicking me off that I'm going to start getting sharp for a race. Say I'm 3 weeks out. What I might start then doing is the following week, let me know. We can just show some of the other sessions, or I would do this, maybe 2 weeks out, that 1,200. And what I might do is 5 by a mile at 10K pace off 90 seconds. So warm up jog, 5 by a mile, a 10K pace, off like 90 seconds to 2 minutes if you need it. And then the following week, do that 2 weeks out. That's going to get you super sharp. And then you're just into like easier, kind of get back into your aerobic after 10 days kind of, or 10 days out. Yeah. Back into those sessions I was trying to tell Kieran. Okay. If though, say if you're only kind of taking this race in, you're like, I want to be peaking more in June, July, and it's only middle of April. Then I would do more kind of aerobic with a little bit of light kind of speed. Okay, so an example session I would do there then will be 2 by 6 minutes at LT, so lactic threshold, with 2 minutes off in between them. So you do 6 minutes at LT, take 2 minutes easy, 6 minutes at LT, 2 minutes easy. Then I would do 10 by 400 at 10K pace off a minute. Okay, so you're doing a little bit of your aerobic, which is harder. Then you're hitting your 10K pace. So it's keeping that little bit of sharpness in. And I would kind of just keep it like, and then the other session would be like aerobic, might be your 4 by 6 minutes at LT, your 5 by 7 minutes at zone 3, like marathon pace, during the week, and then a little bit of aerobic at the start to kind of warm, like as Kieran said, a lot of us need to kind of get warmed up, and then into just like into reps, but keep the reps shorter. Keep the reps like 1 minute, 400 meters or like 80 seconds, no more than 90-second reps. And they're more of just like getting into the feel of the pace. Whereas as we come closer and we want to bring the peak, what we're going to start doing is none of that aerobic stuff beforehand. We're going to go, if it's 5K, 4 by a mile. If it's 4 mile, we're going to do 5 by a mile. Even if it's 10K, I usually stick at that 5 by a mile at a 10K pace. So you're going to do one session, which is a kind of grindy, hitting your miles, trying to hit your like target paces for the longer ones. And then again, doing some longer reps at our target pace, which is a tough session. I don't expect you to actually hit the paces sometimes in these. It's just the attempt to try do it. Okay, hope that makes sense. That was for Ashing, who's usually on, but if it doesn't, lads, follows up with voice notes, and I can answer those. Okay, next question then. So did my first race in a while today, 13K done in 1 hour 3 minutes. Well done. And was really happy. 13K is such a random distance there. Was really happy with it overall. Could have pushed maybe a little bit in the last 2K. Yeah, look, when you're rusty after races, it can just take a little while to get used to it. So I think you did really well. I could feel my hamstring after. Been listening to a lot of podcasts the last week, which has been really informative. I suppose my question is, this week, when do I reintroduce speed work? Do I wait until the strain is gone? I'm only getting out 2 to 3 times a max with the kids. No problem. Thanks. Yeah. Okay. So again, it would just depend on what the goal is. I think I wouldn't be. Is that? Oh, Dave's is here. Okay. Hey, Dave. Was that you, Dave? Sorry. The 13K. For some reason, I thought that was a woman, because with the kids, it'd be, I don't know, that's probably sexist. I feel like guys would be like, I get over and runs, don't care about these kids. But maybe that's wrong. So I digress. Don't cancel me. Okay, so if you're going out 2-3 times a week, say you're racing, first race in a while, I wouldn't be like rushing back into race. I would again be just building in the training. Okay, so I wouldn't be looking for speed. I'd be looking for more of your marathon thresholdy type running with those kind of maybe minutes on, minutes off at the end, or like hills at the end. So a nice session for you might be like, especially with that hamstring strain, you know yourself, I'd like to stay underneath the hamstring strain. You know, sometimes you can feel like I can push to maybe 80%, but if I go a bit above that, I can feel I'm just kind of overstretching it. Go look at the mobility work, the foam rolling for the hamstring stuff. So you're just literally putting the massage ball into the hamstring as you sit up. you'll release off a lot of tension there. So just look at some of the hamstring mobility work that we have. And like, just always remember, guys, I'm just going to show this again. So if you use your laptop, you go content.backawarebelt.com, and then you can search, wait, will this work? Maybe it won't. Something for him to work on anyway if it doesn't. Oh, spell the right words. So if you just type in the thing, isn't this getting good? So you see we have hamstring releases here. What does that say? Hamstring release 2, how to release a hamstring at work. Like, those hamstring releases be quite good. The rehabs, I wouldn't worry about the rehabs yet, to be fair. I think I'll just do the releases at the moment. I wouldn't even do the stretching. If it sounds slightly strained, I just do the releases. I just do my normal Pilates. But like, if you're using the laptop version, it's content.backawarebelt.com. If you're on our courses, you obviously have access to that. Okay, so yeah, that being said, I would keep the running below it. And I just, in general, even if you didn't have a hamstring strain, my general advice would be to build back in, build into the aerobic type of work. And because you've had a hard race, that will allow you to absorb that training, boost the aerobic, like the nervous system, and like that running is in, and you don't have to worry about like getting back into hard like training sessions or, you know, real race specific stuff again for at least 2 to 3 weeks. In fact, if you build the aerobic, you've already got the kind of race sharpness through the race, just aerobic, and you're probably going to run a lot better in your next race anyway. And then that will give you the time for it to settle. Okay, good. So how to settle a hamstring tendinopathy keeps reoccurring. Hamstring tendinopathies, as Laurie can tell you as well, are like the hardest thing to fix. Okay, they are the hardest thing to fix, I find. I think the key thing is, if you find the thing that kind of, the fact that it keeps reoccurring, if you find the thing, there's a few things I think you need to do. The first is you have to think, like, what is it that I'm doing that's bringing this on? And you need to maybe introduce that a little bit more. So we know what Laurie say. Sorry, Laurie, to keep like using these examples, but okay, you know, Laurie can sometimes go a little bit too hatchet on speed training. She's got the Rocky music on and she's going for those hills. You know, so if you know that's you, it's like, and say then it's like, okay, and after that, then the hamstring started getting tight again. It's like, well, we need to look at it, that we need to really more ease into that, introduce them at like 50% speed, as we've talked about to Laurie before. You know, if it's something that like you can do half marathons or 10Ks and 10K training and you have no problems. But when you're like, now I'm building up to a half marathon, now I'm trying to build up the mileage, it could be, look, you might need a longer period at the like time without this hamstring tendinopathy before you build up to the longer distances again, you know. That being said, then the second thing I'd say, so that's like just looking at, is there something that you're doing when it reoccurs that could be causing the issue? The second thing is, can you keep the thing going that you were doing that helped it? Okay, so say you do your seated hamstring curl. So we have our band and we're really, you know, that seems to get strong. But once the hamstring tendinopathy eases off, we start leaving that out a little bit more. Or maybe we're using our hockey ball or massage ball to release the hamstring, you know, up around there. But we stop doing that because obviously when we're running more, we have less time to do rehab because the running takes the place of where it is. But maybe if there's just that one or two kind of key things that you find really helps the hamstring, just make sure that you need to keep that in, and you might need to kind of progress them, you know. So the seated hamstring curl one is the one that seems to be helping people the most at the moment. So like a band underneath, sitting, and then we're releasing out the leg and then pulling it back in and really working that hamstring. How's your tendinopathy going? It wasn't Laurie that had that question, by the way. Sorry, I know she's on the call.
No, I was just thinking, like, it's so true what you say, though, because that's what happened to me the first time. As I went and I got some exercises and I did them for a bit and things felt better, and then I stopped doing them and then it came back. And even though like the really heavy weight stuff is what's helped me the most. It's not fun, but
Yeah,
I'll always do it because that's the only thing that's got it to a good spot, is that
yeah,
really kind of heavy, like long hold kind of weight, eccentric load, I
yeah,
guess is the way to
yeah,
do it.
exactly.
So
And yeah,
yeah, so even if you don't like doing it, whoever has this issue, I'd say just keep doing it. So I think it's the only thing that's worked for me is to just keep on it all the time.
yeah, yeah. I think those heavy eccentrics are, especially as you start dialing it back in, you know, like, so I think I know who this is. I think it's, well, I'll say her first name, Sarah, I think. But if it is that, I think, you know, she's been doing the Pilates a while. We've cleaned up a lot of the movements. So then it could be just like a very heavy eccentric, once or twice a week, just enough to kind of keep that, like, everything engaged around that area. But the hamstring tendinopathy straight up is the one that's like the hardest at the moment to fix, and to stay fixed. Everyone else, it's like I kind of have a good old protocol for, and that one's still like, Jesus, it's just a tricky one around how the pelvis is moving versus like the strength of the hamstring. So yeah, I think that's really good advice, Larry. Maybe a heavy eccentric that you're doing, it can be, you know, it can be awkward to do, and when things are feeling good, it's easy to slip out of it. But it's just trying to have that as a part of like your staple. It could be a thing of, can you like start your run there? So kind of be like, well, I'm back running, but I have to go into the gym, do those, even if it's like 5-10 minutes, before, or I have my own setup and I do that before I go running. And if I don't do this, I just not running today, you know. So because it's just easy to cut out, is what I'm saying. Good. All right, this is fine. Quick question on running technique, if you think there's a chance to get to it on tonight's Q&A. I've recently got my gait analysis done on buying new runners, and it was mentioned that I land with a slight heel landing. Oh no, rather than flat foot. Oh God. Nothing too bad, but still heel landing. No overpronation. I was only joking about that, by the way. So I'm wondering, first of all, is this something that I should try to fix? I did try only on my last run at the weekend to concentrate on landing a little bit more flat and also lifting my knees slightly more to try and encourage better technique. And also wondering if this would be a correct way to help improve the issue. I also usually throw in some strides once a week. Brilliant. Which is not sarcastic. That's great. Which I think has made a big improvement since I started. Yeah. Currently don't really have any injuries. So not sure if I should be trying to fix something that maybe is not broken, or maybe it would benefit me in the long run to try and improve my technique. Generally, I'm not a fast runner. Easy runs would be around 5:30 per K, doing around 25 per K per week in 3 runs. I presume it's difficult to say without seeing me run, but any general information or tips on improving technique would be much appreciated. Hope some of that makes sense. Won't be on the call later, but listen on Spotify. Great. So she's the one who listens on Spotify. It's always good to get to the bottom of that. Look, Laurie will be able to answer this question as well, because she's heard me spout on about this before. Guys, the way you run is the way you run. Don't worry about it. A slight heel strike. I heel strike. I've ran sub 14 minutes. You know, I've run a sub 4 minute mile. It's not a big deal. Changing your stride. I've told the story before, right? But I'll tell it again. There was a guy in my age category. I had the 2 guys who were like I competed against. And thankfully they were more 1500 at the time, and I was 800, so I was able to win a few national titles. Not just because they just used to compete against each other rather than, and left me alone. But they were really good. And one guy who heel striked, he was second in Europe. So he won the silver medal at the European Juniors. The only problem is the guy who bet him was also Irish. So this guy was second in Europe, but he was also second in Ireland. And he was second in our small province called Leinster. So he's second in Leinster's. So this guy has 0 gold medals. Like, he's just got silvers the whole way. And the guy who won had just naturally like a really nice stride on his toes. Just naturally, that's the way he ran. He just had a really lovely stride. So the guy who came second said, I'm going to copy his stride. And he did. And he ran well. Like he still didn't beat him or anything, but he was running really well. By 21, that guy who came second never ran again. He had double Achilles surgeries. All right. So the point of that story is the body works out the best way to run for you. Okay. If it's heel striking, there's a reason. There's generally three. So don't try change this without changing everything underneath it, or like forcing yourself. So you going out for a run and trying to land flat or land on your toes, you're going to give yourself problems that you do not need. Okay, you're out running 3 times a week. We have a million things to do. We can do to improve you before we start trying to change a slight heel strike to a 4-foot. Run 4 times a week if you want to really improve, you know. So I also had a friend who, I know I saw this before as well. He ran once every 2 weeks, and we're out for a coffee, or I don't drink coffee, but we're out for a tea, and you know, he's asking me questions like, oh, I was on listening to Joe Rogan, like the double breath. Is that better? I'm like, dude, you run once every 2 weeks. The thing that's going to help you run better is running more. And also when he went out, he used to just hockey, like say 10K. He used to do like a 10K race. It's like, just go out and run easier. And then it's not such a daunting task to go out running, you know. Whereas like if you know every 2 weeks I'm going out into hockey myself, well, you can see why you're not getting out. So maybe if you're like, well, like I can quickly get out for a half an hour run. He has 3 young kids, but like if you can get out for maybe a half an hour run, and it's not going to kill him for the day, but then it's easier to do that and maybe get out a little bit more regularly. But again, yeah, like strides. So like sometimes it's like we don't need these magic bullets, and technique running is like one of these magic bullets. Now, that being said, doing strides weekly is really good. Okay, so what we want to do is develop the building blocks to help us run smoother and run more efficiently. And then whatever our body takes from that and starts to use subconsciously and naturally, we just let it off. We never think about how we're actually trying to run. Okay, we're never trying to land on our toes. So what we can do then, the first building blocks are, do you have good mobility? Can you move through your ankle? Can you move through your hip? So if your body wants to move in a certain way, say at the ankle, so it can land better, we have that flexibility. Second thing, do you have good balance? Do you have good strength? So again, if your body is like thinking we can land, if we have better strength, and this is all through the Pilates, that what we're doing, it's improving your mobility, it's improving your core strength, it's improving your leg strength, and they're really improving through. That's kind of what the Pilates does, and that also helps us prevent injuries. So it's win-win. The last one is the motor control. Now, doing the strides, you're naturally going to improve because when you're running faster, your body will have to work out a more efficient way of running. So it's and you're going to naturally go more on your toes. So as you said, you're feeling benefits from that. And I would recommend everybody include strides. If you are heel striking, this is the only thing I would recommend and say if you're doing your drills, so A skips, B skips, high knees, that kind of thing, a little bit of skipping, like skipping forward, that will all get you on your toes more. So you're kind of like skipping up, and start easy. Start about 50% and build up as you go. Backward running will help. The only way all that will help, I might actually do a little video on that, actually, just kind of some running drills that you can do to help stride. That'd be a good one to do. I'll do that. I write these on pieces of paper like this, and then this piece of paper will go absolutely nowhere. But anyway, video for someone, if they ask me that in the chat, if they like that, like kind of running drills to help. Okay, the only one to do if you're a heel striker that actually is good is if you can either have like lines. So like say, either physically put like down a mat, physically put down like a bamboo shoot or some kind of like stick along where you're running, and say if you don't want to do that, say you're running on a pavement or a path, try not to hit the cracks, you know, where there's a line, because what that's going to do then is, as you're running, usually when we're heel striking, we're going very far forward and then coming through, where if we're having to, like when we're trying to run fast, if we're having then to look down and be like conscious of where we're landing, we have a tendency to land underneath ourselves a lot better. And then that'll get you more on your toes. So Franz Bosch would do that a lot. So they'll put like, they'd put like little bamboo shoots or stuff like down at a regular, or mats at a regular distances. So it's not like you're getting into a rhythm. And as you're running, then you have to be much more like, say, on your toes, because you're aware of like that thing is coming up. So I can't just like heel strike onto that. Okay. So, and if you didn't have, you're like, I'm not putting down any bamboos, or not putting down anything on the ground. If you're running on a track, maybe you're like, don't hit any line I hit. I don't want to hit any line. Or it could be on a path. I'm not hitting any crack or any direct line on this path. I'm always going over these. And they'll just, you then don't consciously think of anything on your toes. Just thinking of that, I'm not hitting that. You'll be more careful of where you're landing. You'll change your stride slightly, and that generally puts people more on their toes. Great. Bracy. Okay, great. That's it. Do you have any questions, Ari?
Yeah, I got one more if you've got time.
Yeah, I have time. Yeah.
I started doing a different dynamic stretch. Like, I've been having that problem on the right side of my back, just sort of around where the bony bit is. So like if you're pressing into your back on either side of the spine, kind of at the lower part of the back, there's these sort of bony bits.
Yeah, dimples basically, yeah.
Okay, so around there. So anyway, the stretch I started doing was for groin, but so you sort of start out as if you're sitting back on your toes, so it's stretching your toes back.
Yeah.
And then I put one leg out to the side, and then I come up on the knees and then back down and up on the knees, like up.
Yeah.
So when I do that with the right leg out to the side, it almost feels like it jams in the hip when I come up.
Okay.
Does that help identify what the hell the problem is with my back? Because
it sounds like it could be SI joint. The hockey ball's not helping release any of that, is it?
I've been doing it probably not as frequently as I should, but I have been doing it, and it hasn't made that much of a difference. But maybe
and maybe like an osteopath, just if something is a bit jammed, go into someone, or like dry needles, just to get it moving again freely, and then going into those. I think that might help a little bit more. Yeah, I think it might be just like an acute thing that's slightly caught, and releasing it off would kind of help, rather than trying to stretch out of it. But the fact that that's getting it jammed when you do that would kind of indicate that.
Okay, all right, great, thanks.
Brilliant. All right, great, guys, thanks so much. Great, super questions. They were flying in this week, and I really enjoyed answering them all. So if you have any questions for next week, just post them up. Oh, sorry, I have one more question, and I said I wouldn't forget, and I did nearly forget. Just a quick question regarding interval sessions, doing them on a treadmill versus outdoor. I find it easier, as I can just set the pace and lock in. So I feel much easier on a treadmill. No need to think or constantly check my watch. But is there a downside for this? For example, in one session, 20 by 400 at 10K pace with 45 seconds recovery, would I miss out on any of the benefits of doing it on a treadmill versus outdoors? Outdoors, my pace might fluctuate a bit, but would still broadly hit the 10K target. Just wondering if you think treadmill intervals are less effective overall, or is it a useful tool when it suits? I think it's a useful tool when it suits. I don't think in general it's look, I just find treadmills really boring. I don't think there's in general a massive negative. The only thing with that particular session is, say it's like a kind of 3-week out from a race session. So you might want to just get used to outdoors, just to kind of get yourself of like what that pace feels like. But in general, like changing the sessions onto a treadmill and doing them there versus doing them outdoors. No, if you like that, I think that's good to do it. It's slightly easier because obviously the treadmill is keeping you at a constant pace. But no, if you like doing it on a treadmill and you can get into that rhythm, more power to you. You might just want 1 or 2 outdoor ones, just to kind of, as I said, just to get used to the pace, and even fluctuations of like, okay, I went up a little bit fast there. Okay, that was a little bit slow. Just coming into a race, maybe 2 to 3 weeks out, you might want to do 1 or 2 outdoors just to get used to that. But overall, I have no problem using a treadmill. Brilliant. Okay, thanks. Another great cracker of a question. Great, lads. See you next week. Take care. Bye.
Right.